Okay, so here's my Q2 earnings call reaction for Tesla. For me, I think it's now abundantly clear that we are no longer investing in an auto company. I think this was already the case for the last several quarters, that we're not invested in Tesla for deliveries. We're not invested in Tesla for car sales. That is not the case anymore. We are now invested in Tesla as a startup for robotics and for autonomy. The wonderful thing about this kind of investment, regardless of whatever the stock price is, I think it's the most misunderstood company on Wall Street. But regardless of what the stock price is, we're invested in a company, call it a startup, call it potentially, even think about it as like a private company, where we know they have the manufacturing prowess, they have the balance sheet, they have the engineering capabilities to execute on what us investors, at least the ones that kind of really understand the core of the moral of the story here, us investors are looking forward to, which is robotaxi, which is Optimus. That's it. Auto deliveries, whatever. However they sounded on the call, whatever. They're only doing that because they have to do it. That's just their SEC regulation or whatever. But my little rant is, those that are kind of complaining about Tesla stock dipping $20 or whatever it is right now, who cares? Think of what Warren Buffett says. On a daily basis, you have that guy's going to the front of your house saying, hey, I'll pay you this much for your house today. Tomorrow, I'll pay you this much. The next day, they'll pay you 20% less. The next day, they'll pay you 20% more. You're not going to sell your house. You're going to keep your house because you know over the long term, it'll appreciate. And over the long term, even Warren Buffett says, the stock market is a weighing machine. In the short term, sure, it's totally a casino. It's a voting machine. But over the long term, it's a weighing machine. So think about that. Don't worry too much about what the day-to-day stock price is. Think of it as if you're investing in a startup like SpaceX. We don't know what the daily fluctuation of SpaceX would be. Even if we did, we wouldn't care because we know long-term where the company is going to be multiplanetary. So same thing for Tesla. We are now solely focused on autonomy and Optimus. Don't worry about the stock price. We know that in the long term, they're going to execute. They already have the manufacturing ability. They already have the engineering talent. They have the AI capabilities. They have the infrastructure, the AI infrastructure. Look, not investment advice at all. But all those things considered, it seems to me that they are very well positioned to execute on the long-term plan, the long-term strategy. That's all. As a Tesla investor, if you really are a long-term holder, that's what you care about. Not the daily flux in the price. Forget the price. Don't even look at the price every single day. Keep your eye on the prize. The prize is mass scale of robotaxi and eventually Optimus. Now, could Elon have been kind of sandbagging expectations a little bit? I don't know. Even if he is, okay, great, whatever. But I do know that outside of Tesla, robotics is going to be kind of the holy grail for the economy, for productivity, for growing GDP, not only for the US, but just globally. Even if you're not considering, I know there are a few investors, like Chris Camillo, for example, like he doesn't even care about autonomy. He only cares about robotics. Like once he sees a clear crystal picture of where Optimus will be in the next, call it 24 to 36 months or whatever, that's when he'll become more leveraged in Tesla. So I think that's, obviously that's his strategy. But anyway, even if it's not autonomy, Optimus, I think, is a nice kind of next wave that we can expect massive growth in. Now, of course, it's not going to happen overnight. It'll take several years for it to scale. But hey, most of us have always been saying we're in it through 2030. If you're in it through 2030, then don't lose sleep at night. Just relax. A lot of folks that were in Tesla, call it starting in the early 2010s, mid 2010s, through 2020 when it finally skyrocketed. Those folks had to be incredibly patient for 5 to 10 years before they saw meaningful growth in the value of their stock. 5 to 10 years of the stock kind of just fluctuating back and forth. There were times where, it was up 25% in a day, it was down 25% a day, whatever it is. But 10 years of fluctuating stock prices to finally get that breakout to where it hasn't gone back to those, stock adjusted $50 per share or $25 per share, whatever it is. You know, a lot of folks are now reaping the benefits, and they don't lose sleep at night because it's hard to see a world where the stock price would fall back to that level. Anyway, at some point, not financial advice, but I have high confidence that we'll see that again. We'll see that wave again in the coming 5 to 10 years, where yes, for the past 5 years, 4 years, stock price hasn't really fluctuated too much. It's kind of always hovered around this kind of mark where we are right now. But as long as you're in it for the long term, I know I'm beating a dead horse here, but as long as you're in it for the long term, what is there to worry about? Of all the companies that are working on robotics, the one that is proven itself to actually execute on their game plan, and the one that is publicly traded is Tesla. Why lose sleep if you know that you got the brightest mind leading the company, the brightest company, the most talented company towards that promised land of optimus and autonomy? So anyway, that's my rant. I know I kind of just went on and on there and rambling, but I think we shouldn't lose sleep. The long term thesis is still intact. If anything, I'm more excited about it now because it's like we're getting through this whole, political scenarios, this whole kind of fiasco of like the interest rates being too high or cars being too priced. Where's the more affordable model? Who cares? If you can execute on autonomy, those that could afford the more affordable model or that want the more affordable model will now have another option of, okay, do I buy a car where I have to pay for maintenance, insurance, just clean car washes, whatever, or do I just subscribe, whether it's a monthly subscription or pay per mile or whatever, where you pay no more than maybe a couple $100 a month to drive anywhere I need to go every single month, to and from work, to the grocery store, to the gym, whatever. So anyway, I think don't lose sleep. It's just another quarterly earnings call. They just have to go through the motions of these things. But think about it as a private startup that has already proven itself from a manufacturing standpoint, from a talent standpoint, and from really having the best CEO on the planet standpoint. That should be your focus. If there's anything that you take away from this 8-ish minute video, is that. Know that they already have the talent, the team, the prowess to execute. They've done it before and they'll do it again. Not investment advice, but they will execute. Let them cook and give them time.